Plain and simple, posture is so important for runners. Regardless of what distance you're running, it's a 5K, a 10K, a half, a full, you're an ultra runner. Every single step you take, there's so much jarring and compressive force throughout the body. So we need to make sure we're not making it harder on ourselves by doing specific mobility and strength training exercise that will maximize your posture late in the race. So if you're someone that feels like you really fatigue or break down, or by the time you get over the finish line and you see, and you're looking back at one of those race photos, you see yourself almost like, man, I'm struggling, okay? I want to show you several different strategies today that will really help you look at the body from a postural standpoint, not just can we strengthen muscles to be strong, but can we actually get into the right position and then strengthen ourselves in that position that's going to promote good running mechanics as a result of that. So stay tuned and let me walk you through these strategies. There are really three areas when it comes to posture that's going to be very important for running. First, we're looking at hip, but specifically, can I get into extension, okay? If we have trouble or tightness through the hip flexors, that typically will pull the body forward or pull us into more of an anteriorly tilted pelvis, okay? Over a long haul, that's something that will really cause a lot of stress and fatigue throughout the upper body and the spine and the extensors to be in an upright position. So what we would do to combat that is your basic half kneeling hip flexor stretch. So if we're in this lunge position here, we're gonna work on stretching this down leg. Before we start, if we can slowly tilt the pelvis. Again, I'm trying to tuck my tailbone under. I'm digging my back toe into the ground here, as you can see. And then I'm just slowly lunging forward. If you're setting yourself up in the right position, you should feel a good stretch throughout this front hip flexor. Again, if this is an area where you are restricted. So this is something that's very valuable to go into to see, am I actually tight or restricted here? Do I feel like I'm in this position, I'm lunging, I don't feel much? Okay, maybe the hip flexor stretch is not really relevant to you specifically, but that's one of the first areas to look. Second area, as we start to go higher up the kinetic chain, is your thoracic spine. Thoracic spine are these 12 vertebrae, again, right from the base of the neck, just above the lower back. Thoracic spine is important because as a result of prolonged sitting throughout the day or just not addressing this area, typically most people are starting to fall into more of a rounded or kyphotic thoracic spine. So what we need to make sure is we have the ability to extend, be up in an upright position, because we can strengthen through the back all day. If we strengthen the body in this position, it's almost like we're already in a position where gravity is forcing us down and we're fighting against it. So improving mobility there would be important. One of my favorite things to do here is the prone press up. If you go down to the forearms, relax the body at first here, and then just nice and easy, you want to think segment by segment. I'm just going to come up and extend through the spine. As much as possible through this is staying away from the lower back area. We want to try to arch and extend the mid and upper back. So really have to focus on where is my range of motion coming from. Okay, so extending. Try to breathe, keep the hips relaxed down, and just segment by segment come up and extend the spine. Okay, from there, if that's easy, if we don't feel like we're getting much mobility through there, but your spine is always tight or in a somewhat kyphotic or rounded position, we can go up here to the hands and just slowly come up. Again, don't have to force myself up all the way, but just trying to extend through the upper and mid back, start to gaze up towards the ceiling, and get more extension throughout the spine. Really loosen up those tissues that are pulling you into a rounded position. Okay? Third thing we're going to look at is actually right here through the chest, but we're trying to improve scapular retraction, the ability to extend and get these scapula pulled backwards, because that's what we want to promote this good running motion. Okay? That really comes from, or can be restricted by, these muscles throughout the pec here. We have the pec major, pec minor, subscap. There's a couple specific muscles that will restrict and pull you into this forward rounded position that we want to really open up and get out of. So in a doorway, using some kind of rail, again, squat rack here at the gym, we can bring the elbow up shoulder height, stay up nice and tall, and just take a couple small steps forward to help really lengthen. You can feel a good stretch right through the front of this arm, front side of the armpit, right through the chest here. So that's stretching those muscles to get us into a better position where we can pull back, because we don't want to be running in more of this forward rounded position because we're so tight throughout this chest girdle. The next place to look is ensuring you have a good position between the rib cage, the spine, and the pelvis. Again, this is the core, as we call it, but we want to make sure that the rib cage and diaphragm are sitting directly over the pelvis and pelvic floor, okay? Spine right in the middle as one of those, again, bony connections between those areas, but a lot of times we do not promote good positioning through here and then strengthen or stabilize in that position. So I just want to show you a couple very simple breathing drills, which they're simple to do. Again, if I give you the instructions how to do them, what you'll find is they're often pretty challenging to get into if you're not someone that works on diaphragmatic breathing and stability in the core often. Okay, so what we're going to do here in the supine position, laying on my back, knees bent, feet on the floor, is if I'm just staying here, palms up, okay, I'm not trying to use the hands at all to push into the ground and create stability anywhere else. What you'll notice here, a lot of you, is the rib cage will be in more of an opened or flared position. So I can just feel around at my ribs here. Not too bad, but just want to show you exaggerated. See what happens there as I start to, again, back is arched, there's space under my lumbar spine and my ribs are open. I want to get out of this position, and usually to do that, a nice deep breath will help. So breathe in through the nose. As I exhale, I am letting my rib cage compress down. So you can see I'm no longer in this flared position. My exhale allowed me to use that diaphragm, let every last bit of air out of the lungs, and compress the rib cage down. So as I get into that position, I just want to lightly use the abdominals. The abdominals are going to engage just to help pull that rib cage down. From there, automatically, you can see my lower back flattened on the ground, so I'm in more of a centrated position with that rib cage and pelvis. The diaphragm is sitting right over that pelvic floor a lot better. Okay, so what I want to do from there, I'm just going to feel around here, abdominal area, right in the front side, just inside the bones there of the pelvis, and I want to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. What I want to make sure is I'm allowing my breath to come down into this abdominal wall. So I want to use that diaphragm properly, that I'm not always breathing up into the chest. Okay, this isn't a chest breathing exercise. It's more of a diaphragmatic exercise where we're breathing through the lower rib cage and abdominal area. But as I exhale, I want to get to the point where I'm still able to exhale fully and maintain a low level of intra-abdominal pressure. Okay, so as I exhale, I don't want to get to the point where there's nothing. I'm pushing into my lower abdominal area here on the sides through the obliques, and I can just push right through. There should always be a little bit of pressure where you're pushing out and expanding that abdominal wall, because we don't want to lose pressure completely. Okay, so again, if the abdominal wall is working, I can't completely push in here. There's still some pressure out against me. Same thing on the side. Am I pushing out into the side of the core here, side of the abdominal wall? Because we want to make sure that breath is 360 degrees. It's happening around the entire abdominal and lower rib cage area. So that is a very simple way to help work on getting into the right centrated position between the ribs and the pelvic floor. Now that we looked at being in a better position between the rib cage, spine, and pelvis, we want to really improve stability and endurance in that position, because what that is, that's the ability for the body to be in this centrated position throughout the midsection. So we're getting good stability of the spine, we're getting good control of the pelvis, and then we can run while maintaining that good posture, because that's what's going to lead to good mechanics in the lawn haul. So making sure we don't fatigue and lose that ability to breathe properly and stabilize the spine is important. So what we're going to do is go back into that same position, okay? Laying on your back here. Big exhale. Let that rib cage compress down. Again, initially that might be challenging for you, but try to get that first. Continue to breathe. You can see my ribs are not flaring up. And then from there, as I maintain that position, just lifting the legs up here to this 90-90 position, automatically you're going to feel it's a little more challenging. Abdominals, core, and this entire abdominal area is starting to work a little bit higher. But can I breathe? And maintain that position without letting my back arch or my chest start to expand. So I'm breathing through this exercise. It's a very low level core stability exercise, but you'll be surprised as you incorporate diaphragmatic breathing and monitor if you're breathing through that lower rib cage and abdominal area, it becomes a little more challenging. Then from there, I can start to introduce heel taps. You can hear I'm actively breathing. Once in a while, I can come back and check my core, see if I'm expanding throughout that rib cage. After I go into this dead bug with the heel taps, I can then progress a little, make it a little more challenging. Again, don't jump to the step unless you're ready. And what you'll notice is including a diaphragmatic breathing within these core stability exercises will be a lot harder than you have done in the past with just doing these core stability exercises. Okay, so what we're going to do from there is same thing. Breathe. You can see how I'm consistently breathing through. You can link it with the movement or just constantly breathe throughout there, but you're trying to maintain the ability to breathe properly. Diaphragmatic breathing, again, lower abdominal, lower rib cage and abdominal area is breathing, expanding 360 degrees as you maintain stability. So you'll know right away if you lose stability, if that back really starts to arch, if you're starting to really pull down, shoulders round forward, you're trying to support yourself into the ground there just to maintain your position. Stop, reset, take a step back, and continue to work on maintaining this canister as you improve some stability and endurance on top of that. The final step, now that we worked on again, opening up those areas from a range of motion standpoint, creating a better centrated position between the rib cage, the spine, and the pelvis, improving core stability, is looking up at the shoulders. So this is why upper body strength is so important for runners, is because these shoulder blades, again, as we start to lose our posture, the shoulder blades round forward. From there, usually it's the spine, and we're more of a hunched over position. So if we have a better endurance through these scapular retractors, the rhomboids, the middle trap, these muscles that pull the shoulder blade back, we can stay in this upright position to then continue to carry out a good running motion and arm swing specifically. So 2 different ways we can do this, bands and dumbbells. Again, more than 2 ways. We can use a TRX, we can use a barbell, but just to be very simple today and show you the movement, which is the same regardless of what implement you're using. So if we start with just using a band, we're going to go into a low row. We can do low row and high row to help strengthen these muscles up around the scapula. So small bend of the knees, butt back with a band. I'm just going to drive the elbows by the side, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then come nice and easy forward. So I'm trying to pinch those muscles right between the shoulder blades and pull the shoulder blades right to the spine. Again, I want to try to do this as much as I can without shrugging. So keep your shoulders relaxed and just retract the best you can. Again, working anywhere from 6 to 12 repetitions, adding resistance as much as you need to. From there, what I can do is arms up a little bit higher. I'm going to bring my elbows up shoulder height as I pull back and retract. This is a more of a high row or a rear delt row where we're getting that posterior deltoid. Again, very important from a postural standpoint. You should feel this exercise a little bit higher up, just the top edge of the shoulder blades and right through the back of the shoulders. But those are 2 ways you can address that with the band. Third thing here, if we grab a dumbbell, just a regular dumbbell bent over row. So this is good from a, not just a scapular standpoint, but also from a spine extension standpoint. The first version we're going to show is just regular bent over row using the bench to support you. So there's not as much activity as there will be in the second exercise, those spinal extensors that keep you into a tall position. But this first one here, feet are a little wider than shoulder width, back is flat, you're just going to come up, squeeze that shoulder blade back. So same motion for the most part as that low row I did with the band, but I'm just in a slightly different position. So same thing, 6 to 12 repetitions, as heavy as you can lift to strengthen these muscles. Okay, so that's the first version. Second version, if I go unassisted and do not put my hand on the bench, what you're going to notice is my spine, my core, these muscles are going to have to engage to a greater degree to keep me in this nice flat position throughout the spine. So that's the point I want to get to, because I want to strengthen the shoulder blade while also recruiting some of those erector muscles that keep the spine extended. So small bend of the knees, sit back into the hips, and then from here, those muscles throughout the spine are active as I carry out this rowing motion. Okay. So those are a couple strategies to improve the position of the scapula as it relates to posture with running. So there are several different strategies on how to maximize posture late in your run. Very important to make sure we're including all those areas, the flexibility and range of motion, developing a canister and more of a centrated position between the ribcage, spine, and pelvis, core stability, and also scapular endurance and strength. Okay, so those are several different areas I want you to focus on moving forward and make sure you're not fatiguing and crossing the finish line as you look at those race photos to see how your buddy next to you's celebrating with his arms up and you're sitting there like, man, I'm beat, my body's fatigued, and my posture surely has declined. So let me know if you have any questions with that. Again, a lot of things to start to incorporate within your training, but I think if you take it simple, work on the most basic strategies we covered in this video today, there is no doubt in my mind that you won't see success moving forward. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out. Love to work with you more and really create a more individualized program for you to see better results with your running and posture late in your race. Thank you.